Hi and welcome to another video. I'm thankful for you stopping by. I hope you enjoyed today's video wherever you're watching from. If you're watching from my YouTube contacts or if you're watching from my Twitter feed, in which I've posted a link to this, I appreciate you tuning in. If you want to catch out what this website's about, or what this page is about actually, your channel, go back and watch our very first video, but I will tell you in about 45 to 50 seconds maybe. This channel is about good news. It's about encouragement. We all need it. Sometimes people might say, well, is your channel toward Christians? Yes, I am a Christian. I actually started ministering around 1991, so and then of course I was a Christian before that, quite a few years before that. So I've been following the Lord a long time, and I know you might say, well, sometimes you talk to people, not just Christians. You talk to others and then turn it toward Christians. Yeah, we all need encouragement. Everybody needs encouragement. We all need to feel good in some things to uplift us, and that's what I want to try to do here, be an uplifting. But a lot of times I will direct it to both people, because during the day, I work with people that claim to be Christians, and I work with people that don't claim to be Christians. If you see people out, at a store, you'll see people that claim to be Christians. You'll see people that don't claim to be Christians. But you talk to them just the same. You talk to everybody the same. You've got friends that are both ways. So you try to be friendly and you try to uplift, and that's what we want to do. The one other thing I wanted to talk about in this video, and that's what I wanted to sort of direct this on, is basically unseen blessings that we get from God, that we all get from God. But the thing is a lot of us don't really pay attention to them. And I want to give you a few examples, but let me say first, good news is something that we all need. Good news is something that we all like to hear. But you probably know when you tune into the radio, or when you tune on your local television station or the national, what do you hear? You hear bad news. That's what they're basically about. You don't ever hear something about, good news. You don't hear, well, gas dropped 10 cents today. What you hear is when the gas rises. That's what they focus on. They focus on bad news to get people to watch and tune in. And a good example of what I'm talking about is recently this last week, we had one of the top basketball players of all time who was tragically killed in a helicopter crash. And if you think about it for a moment, when you tune into the news and you hear that, what do you hear a lot of times? You'll hear that's what they focus on. And here's what I'm saying. Every day there's thousands upon thousands, and this is what I was telling someone recently, thousands upon thousands of planes that take off and make it to their destination, arrive safely, return safely. But, the news don't say when it comes on, well, X amount of planes made it safely today. What you do hear is you hear the one that had the tragic crash. You hear the one that had maybe crashed at takeoff, that crashed into the ocean, that crashed, landing, or, those are the things you hear about. And that is what sticks in your mind. And, you sort of associate that. And I just don't really, sometimes we all just need to hear something good. And some of the some of the TV stations, I've gotten almost to where I don't watch the mainstream media anymore because it's just so negative. And even one of the channels that I used to like, which this channel was more balanced, but all they seem to do is bicker. And it would be like you would take a news story, you would report this news story for 35 seconds. And then after the 35 seconds was up in the news story, they'd say, okay, now here's our panel of guests to talk about it. And so they'd usually have like 3 people sit up, one, and one. Well, what would happen was they would say, give us your opinion. Well, this one here would start talking, and this one over here wouldn't like it, and he would cut in on this one. Then this one in the middle would jump in, and all of them would be over-talking the other one, and you couldn't even make out really what they were saying. So, I just don't like that. And that's one reason why, like I said here, I want to focus on, when I do make these videos, trying to give you a little bit of good news. And I wanted to focus on a verse that, as I said, talking about blessings sometimes. And the verse is found in 2 Kings. And I'm not going to read it. We'll just put the put it in the description box below, so feel free to look it up. But it's in 2 Kings chapter number 6, and it's around verse number 17, but really you can read the whole chapter and you'll see what we're talking about. But in this passage, it's talking about Elisha, who's a servant of God, and he has one of his people that begins to doubt. And he goes to Elisha and he looks out and he sees, when he looks out the window, he sees all the enemy encamped round about. And it scares him. And he goes back over to Elisha and he tells Elisha, he says, Master, what are we going to do? And Elisha said, those that are for us are more than those that is against us. And he didn't understand what he was saying. He said, no, it's not. I know what I seen. He knows what he seen when he looked outside. So he said, go look again. Well, when he looked again, Elisha said, Lord, open his eyes that he might see. When Elisha prayed that prayer, this man's eyes was open, but I want you to understand, it wasn't his natural eyes. It was his spiritual eyes. When he seen spiritually, not with these, but spiritually through the mind of God, what he seen when he looked out. Oh my goodness, he seen a host, an army, horses, angels upon those horses, and he seen that they way outnumbered the enemy. And God answered that prayer to Elisha as he showed that young man, hey, you have them outnumbered because I'm on your side. But see, with the physical eye, he couldn't see that. And a lot of times we don't see. And that's what I said. I wanted you to think about that. And like I said, it's in 2 Kings. We'll put the link below. And I want you to read that. Because read about this man that seen this with his natural eye, then how he's seen it with his spiritual eye. And we've all got blessings and we see blessings, but a lot of times what we do is we see the blessings or we see what goes on just through our physical eyes and not through our spiritual eyes. Okay, let me give you an example. I've had something happen over the last several months and with me. And okay, here's what, just sharing briefly these experiences. Several months ago, I had a dentist appointment. I had going to have some dentist work done, and this dentist was out of our local area, so I was going to have to drive quite a little bit. It was in another city, and recently I had bought a new set of tires for my car. Okay, the set of tires I bought was in the city, the local city in which I work. Well, we was going to this other city, and my wife was riding with me because we knew that I would probably be out of it on the way home after having some teeth work done, and we got going almost to the city and my tire light come on. Well, when that tire light come on, I knew something was wrong, and I could feel something in my car that I knew something was wrong with that tire. And I told her, I said, I have got to stop here. But I was on the parkway. I was on the parkway near this city. Well, and this city is a place I hardly ever travel to because it's a pretty good little piece. And so we got to this one where we was getting off the parkway. And I told her, I said, instead of turning this way and going toward the dentistry, I'm going to turn this way because I said the tar, I don't want to make the turn. I didn't want to make the turn and blow out. So the tar was on my right side. So I said, I'm going to turn into the first place that's on the right. Well, I turned my car, and the very first turn-in place was the same place, or the same store. It wasn't the same place, but it was the same company that I had bought my tires from in my local city. So I pulled in and I went in, and as soon as I got out of the car, my tire had almost blew out. It was bad, really bad. And it was a manufacturing error, basically is what it was. But when I went in and I told the people, I said, I bought from you all, but in this other city. They called the people and they said, yeah. So they got the information they needed. I got a free tar. They put me a tar back on and I was on my way. Okay. Let me tell you about another experience. Recently, this was with my car, and one of my cars as well. We went out and I was driving up the road and our little light come on and I knew something was wrong. And the closer I got, it was dark, but the morning, but the closer I got to town, to my work, my lights started going dim, getting dimmer. And I thought, I'm not going to be able to make it to work. Well, thank the Lord, I was able to make it to work. Okay, I made it to work and I pulled in and somebody told me, they said, it's probably your alternator. Well, to make a long story short, I had a fella at work that knew something about it. He took the alternator out, and basically I got my car with a new alternator put in it. I got it fixed. It didn't need a new alternator, but I got that alternator fixed, and my car was fine. Okay, another story. This is from one of my other vehicles. Okay, we got ready to leave out one morning, and turned the key, it wouldn't do a thing. The battery was completely dead. We'd been driving it for several times and of late, and it'd been cold weather, but all of a sudden it was just like boom. The battery was completely dead. Not a stitch of anything. So what I did was I got a new battery. A few days later, I took my car, got a new battery, put it in, things started right up. Okay. Now, here's what I want. I told you all that. Now, those are 3 instances. I told you all that to say this. What we do a lot of times is we focus on, man, I had alternator problems. Man, I was driving up the parkway and the tire blew out. I cannot believe I went out and my battery was dead in my vehicle. Okay, but think about this. Okay? When you look at it from the other side, you look at it from your spiritual eyes, not through the natural eyes, through the spiritual eyes. When I got off the parkway, I was right at the place that sold me my tires to start with. I was able to get a new tire for free and put on as a replacement with just a simple phone call. Okay? My car alternator didn't go out to where I got stranded on the road. My whole lights went out. It didn't happen. I got to my work. A guy come out. He fixed my alternator. Or they did it at work, basically, in Litchfield. And I got to come home. Okay? My battery died in that vehicle. But we had been out several times just lately. It didn't die at another place. It died in my yard or in my driveway to where I was able to fix it. So you see what I'm saying? If it was the news, do you know what the news would have focused on? Let's just say, for example, I'm using this as an example. The national news would have focused on, the alternator. It would have focused on the dead battery. It would have focused on the tire blowout. But see, Philippians chapter number 4 and verse number 8. That's another thing that we're going to put in the description box, and I want you to read it. It talks about different sets of things. It talks about some bad things, and then it talks about some good things. Philippians chapter 4 and verse number 8, the Apostle Paul tells us, it goes over the bad, but then it goes over the good. And do you know what Paul said? Paul said, think on these things. Don't think on the bad. He said, think on the good things. So, when we could have got down because our alternator went out on us, basically, but then you got to be thankful for where it did. My other vehicle battery went dead, but it didn't do it, just recently, I'd made a pretty good little journey on that, and went to several miles away, about 30 miles away, actually. It didn't do that trip, It did it in my own yard where all I had to do was get a battery and place it. So you see, let's try to focus on the good things. And a lot of times what we do is we try to think about blessings from a blessings we see type thing. And God does bless us, don't get me wrong. God does bless us in a lot of ways like that. We're blessed. You're blessed on your job. You're blessed with a raise. You're blessed with a new car. Or you're blessed, God does bless you like that. Okay, He does bless people like that. But there are also a lot of blessings that He gives us that are not really seen and we don't think about. For example, let me ask you a question. Has your water pipes freeze and busted lately? No. That's a blessing. Did God keep your air working all last summer? That's a blessing. Did God keep you driving back and forth safely? That's a blessing. What about your, electric appliances? Have they been working for you in your home? That's a blessing. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to have problems, because we all do. And I'm not going to say that we don't have troubles and we don't ever have things. I have had situations, back to the vehicle, I've had situations where we have been stranded because maybe your car broke down, or in one situation I had, my transmission went out, in another area, and I did have to have somebody come and help. Okay? Those things are going to happen. But then the other things, like these, you got to think on these things and see the good in them. That's what I'm saying. The news today is not going to focus on good news for you. It's up to you to see the good things that's going on around you. It's up to you to see, hey, you've got wonderful blessings going around you. It's not always going to be maybe you get that pay raise you wanted, even though those are great. But when a lot of factories are closing down, maybe yours isn't. And you think, well, I didn't even really think of that. No, but the person who lost his job because his factory is closing down, they would think about that. See, we don't think about things like that. We don't think about that. But the same God that does all these other mighty things, He also, thankfully, keeps our heat running during the winter, and hopefully He'll keep your air running during the summer. He'll keep your pipes from freezing and busting. He'll keep your water running. He'll keep your car running. He'll keep your tires going on your car. He'll keep you safe back and forth. See, all of these things are blessings that a lot of times we don't stop and really think about. So, and what I'm telling you is a lot of these things, it's not just Christian or it's not just not Christian. Okay? The Bible says that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. God blesses you regardless. I know somebody that used to, they never did claim to be a Christian, but they always had they was thankful to God for the blessings that He gave them. Later became a Christian, but just in waking them up every morning. And so these are little things that, like I said, you've got a lot of things before you that you can really look at and say, oh man, look at what happened on my way to work today on this car, and my lights almost went out, my alternator, but thank the Lord, He let it be to where I got it fixed, no problem. I made it to work. God kept my car running. See, the Bible said, think on these things. And I'm going to tell you today, whether you're a Christian or not, try to look at the good in things. Try to look at the good in people. Try to look at the good in the things that are surrounding you. Because we've got a lot to be thankful for. We've got a lot to be happy about. And it's not saying there won't be trouble. It's not saying there won't be problems, because there is. But what we're saying is, let's try to think on the good things. Let's try, and that's what this channel is about. It's about encouragement. My Twitter page is about encouragement. It's about, trying to look up in a time period, and be there for somebody who says, hey, we need a helping hand to help pull us up, because everybody gets in the situation where they need one. We want to be an encouragement. You try to be an encouragement to somebody around you. I thank you for tuning in. I hope I've said something. Please read those passages in the description box below. Read them. I hope they're a blessing to you. Tune in on my next video, and we'll catch you then. Thank you.